r/ProRevenge.
Wife stole from her job and me. I hunted her down and had her arrested. My first marriage was to a woman with bipolar syndrome, highly not recommended. When she was medicated she was awesome, but she finally convinced herself she didn't have a problem and stopped taking her medication. I dealt with a lot over the years with her fake pregnancies, affairs, and lots of lies. She could never keep a job for more than a month or two. She would get a job, tell me how much she loved it for the first month or so, and something would happen, they would fire her, and she would blame everybody but herself. While in between jobs I would find some of my items going missing, movies, collectibles, etc. I thought it was her, but I had no real proof. Finally she opened her own business doing house cleaning. She was a neat freak who was very obsessive and good at cleaning. Despite her condition she was very charming and likable and soon had a large client base. I thought things were getting better. I was very proud of her. She was even bringing home more money than I was. Then came the night that she didn't come home. I was frantic. I kept calling her phone, no answer. I finally got a hold of her sister, who said, I want to start off saying it's not my fault. Turns out when my wife showed up to her first clients to clean, there were police officers waiting for her. Apparently my wife was not only cleaning her clients' houses, but cleaning out their jewelry boxes, purses and other valuables. I finally get a call from her that night from jail. She's crying, begging for my forgiveness. I try to be sympathetic. She tells me they're going to let her out the next day on her own recognizance. The next morning around 7 a.m. I'm walking up to a knock at my door. I answer and find 2 uniformed police officers and a detective standing outside. I apologize for being in my underwear and let them in. They search our apartment high and low and ask me a bunch of questions. I am honest with them. My wife finally gets home later that night, once again apologizing profusely. At this point I've decided in my heart that I'm done. I don't let her know yet, knowing her violent outbursts, but decide to plan with my family to move myself out of the apartment when she's gone one day. The first day of her trial arrives. She wanted me to come along for moral support, but I had gotten the flu that morning. I was vomiting into the sink. Meanwhile she's screaming at me that I'm not being supportive of her, making my decision to leave much easier. My plan was to wait till she was sentenced and then move out while she was gone, avoiding any fights, but she kept getting extensions on her trial. So one day while she was at work at her new job, I called my father and brother over and we quickly packed up my stuff, as fate would if she forgot something at home, and showed up when we were half done loading my stuff into the trailer. She started screaming and crying, wondering why I was leaving her, then jumped in her car and sped off. I moved back in with my parents and started digging. Turns out she wasn't only stealing from her clients, she was stealing from me and my parents when she would come over to visit. My mother told me that she had been missing some gold jewelry from her childhood but didn't want to point fingers. I myself, upon going through my items unpacking, discovered my entire collection of 12-inch Star Wars figures that I had collected for years was nowhere to be found. I found out later she had put them on Craigslist for a fraction of what they were worth. I also found out that she opened up an eBay account in my name, took pictures of my nephew's Nintendo Wii, during this time we was hot, and sold it to multiple people, then never sent it out. She pulled the cash before eBay could do anything. The revenge. Here comes the fun part. Despite her being a thief, I on the other hand had worked retail security for going on 21 years. It's my business to catch thieves, to hunt down scammers, so she picked the last person she should have fucked with. Turns out my ex-wife stopped showing up for her court dates and moved out of our apartment. She vanished. The courts couldn't find her. So I started digging, found out that she moved in with the ex-girlfriend of a friend of mine. So I opened a fake Facebook account under a random name. I friended her new roommate. She openly began talking about my ex as her roommate, confirming that she lives there. I told her that I had a bunch of Twilight promo merchandise, which they loved. I wanted to send them. She happily gave out her address. I called Ed County Sheriff's Department and informed them that I knew where a fugitive with warrants was hiding out. They showed up and arrested her on Valentine's Day. She ended up spending the next several months in jail while going through her trial. She was convicted of 5 felony counts of theft and ended up being sentenced to 8 months in prison. I don't want to speak bad of her, but I feel really bad for the people she victimized. It turns out some of the jewelry she stole from some of her clients belonged to parents or grandparents long gone, mementos that these people should have had, of loved ones that have loved ones that she stole to make a quick buck. Oh, and I want my Star Wars toys back, you bitch.
A response to the post.
Never touch a person's Star Wars toys.
A response to this comment.
Qui-Gon Girl.
A response to the post.
8 months for 5 counts of felony theft? That's more of a sentence for petty theft.
A response to this comment.
To be honest, this sounds more like a creative writing assignment. He just happens know the ex was living with a friend's ex, and got her to open up to a complete stranger on Facebook because they work retail security. All of this happening when the wee hot, but that would have been closer to the MySpace era, and she gets arrested on Valentine's Day. If all of that's true, the list of things she did would be a lot more than 5 counts of felony theft.
A response to the post.
Bipolar syndrome is a sliding scale based on a lot of things. It's got a really bad rap. Please don't spread misinformation that leads people to believe all who suffer from it are the problem. I have bipolar syndrome and am nothing like this woman. I'm really sorry this happened to you. It's not just being bipolar that made her do this though. She's just not a good person. Edit. I'm speechless. From all of your support, the awards. Thank you for all of the kind words. You made me feel less alone. It's such a hard subject to talk about because of stories like this and misinformation. If you ever need someone, my DMs are always open. From diagnoses to medication or even coping mechanisms, I'll be here for you.
A response to this comment.
Highly not recommended. That whole story had nothing to do with bipolar people in general. The whole story would have been just as ineffectively fake as it is now without adding this. But for some reason that just had to be put out into the world that apparently this guy thinks bipolar people are unlovable or something and can't recommend them based all on one unmedicated person that outwardly seemed to show signs of instability for years before this came to a head.
A response to the post.
The story has a lot of convenient things.
A response to the post.
This didn't happen. You can't pull the money from eBay before they can do anything. They release the money to you when the product is delivered and customer hasn't complained.